but there's no and it's happening a lot with a lot of people I know. So I only bring this up because I think it could help people who were in a similar situation to me, where you sort of feel like you're lying to the person that knows you the best. And when you're not able to communicate conventionally with someone who really knew when you were lying, even as a kid, you feel like the biggest fraud of all time. And so the only way I could truly communicate with her was I would play music that she could relate to, and boom, she'd be in the room right there singing.
Oh, that gave me chills.
And you know, I get an I love you back when music is playing. And so it's really
beautiful.
It's taught me a lot about the power of music and frequency and the notes and the truth that comes out of that. And you feel that more than anyone when you make music.
Oh, definitely. Even when I'm, able to perform it live, I feel it viscerally. I feel the passion behind every word I say, every beat, every moment I can hit. It just makes it more satisfying because it comes from a place of honesty. I had no idea that's really, I'm really sorry, but that's really beautiful that you were able to find that.
And it is true.
That way of communicating.
There are studies being done to look into that.
I believe it.
Do you miss the cadence of performing live? I got to ask it.
I know. I think the only thing I genuinely miss is probably the interaction. I don't know about ever performing, and I'm not going to say I would never again, because who knows? And I'm always saying I'll never, and then I'm back. So I'm fully aware of my
of all of our tendencies, by the way.
But I do feel the connection is so strong when I'm on stage, and I can actually feel the power of what my music stands for. And I don't know about award shows or any sort of shows. That's always very too vulnerable. It's also just not everyone's there to support what you're doing. There's a different feeling when you're on stage, and everyone.
Very performative.
It is, and sometimes I'm not good at that. I can act-ish, but I'm also like not good at faking when I'm on stage. That I'm. I think I did one performance where I thought I looked like a pop star. And I remember thinking, actually, all of that looks so awkward because it couldn't have been the opposite of, who I am. But it's performative. And I'm not sure that's something I'm willing to entertain again. However, the idea of doing, I don't know, an acoustic set or some sort of soft version. I would love to do that. I miss being with fans for sure.
I feel like you've been, whether you realize it or not, have been working really hard throughout a lot of your young adult and adult life to shed that skin of being quote unquote a pop star or being something that can put on the costume.
Yeah, I think I just maybe got a little tired of that. And I think what I get so much out of film and TV or any sort of performative creativity that isn't music is actually, it is another feeling that I can't really explain other than I connect with a character. I connect with the character's pain, or I connect with the character's joy or relationships and with, mother or fathers, and all of that's so interesting to me, and I can dive into somebody else's world. But when you put yourself out there and it's just you, it can be a bit more frightening. And I think I was just a little tired of it.
We saw it in the documentary.
Totally.
The beginning of the documentary is really hard to watch. I think the way you were describing it before about whether it's being in character or being in an environment where it's you and just the songs, isn't it a form of getting lost? Yeah. Like in a healthy way that we're searching for?
Of course. I think that's the beauty of music too, and film and TV at that, is the escapism. Being able to drown in whatever feeling or whatever emotion entices, your brain in that moment. It's interesting what it can feel like.
It's the closest thing to being present, I think.
I agree.
That's
'Cause
why I
you're
do
paying
this.
attention.
Yeah, that's why I do
No, I
this.
know, and you're very good at it. I'm
but-
honestly, I don't need my therapy session later today. So,
But you know what I mean? Like I can only focus on what we're doing right now. I'm only enthralled in this experience right now. And so whatever's
and
happening around is,
that's the best thing
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
And that's something I think I have to practice every day.
and it is a practice.
It is.
It's a real practice. I'm very interested in rare impact, because I think that the conversation again in the last decade of what it is to be in particular young and experience mental health challenges, that there is a conversation that can be had now which is kind of broad. You can find people to have specific one-on-one conversations, but there's also macro help.
Yeah, of course.
Big funds like you're involved with coming in and saying, we hear you, we understand it's really important.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about purpose, even through all the challenges you've been through, can you sort of ladder it up to a greater purpose that ultimately your generation and who you were as a young artist, everything you went through, is this your purpose in a strange way?
1,000%. Just because I love being able to look at someone and say, I know, and not exactly your way, but I do know that feeling. And it's really difficult. One story that will forever be in my mind to the day I die was this young boy. He was 8 years old, and he was in the hospital. He had lupus, and he was waiting to get diagnosed and also for a transplant. I had experienced both. And when I walked into the room, he kept looking down and he was very nervous. So I kept asking the mother, is it okay that I'm here? Should I maybe just step out? And they insisted that he'd like me to stay. So I just kind of talked about the surroundings and tried to make him feel comfortable and, didn't get in his space. And all of a sudden, as I'm rambling on about the drawings on the wall, he just looks down and says, is it true that you have lupus too? And I looked at him and I said, yes. And it was the first time that he looked up and he finally acknowledged me. And I remember thinking, that's really powerful. That's something I register in my mind as that's why I went through it. So I don't look back and feel, oh, how miserable, and I can't believe.
There's a certain crack in Selena Gomez's voice when she speaks about the hardest chapters of her story. A hint of steel, a trembling honesty, and a resonance that makes you realize the depth of what she survived. If there's one thing we know about pain, it's that everyone's story is unique, no matter how many times the tabloids repackage the same headlines. For years, Selena's high-profile relationship with Justin Bieber played out under the flashing glare of camera bulbs and relentless online speculation. Yet, behind the glossy images and sanitized statements, there was a reality so raw it nearly broke her, and a lesson so profound it just might help everyone who has ever loved, lost, and tried to heal. To the outside world, Selena and Justin's relationship seemed like a modern fairy tale, a pairing of global pop royalty who grew up under the gaze of millions. But fairy tales rarely survive the daylight, and theirs was no exception. "He is my worst nightmare," Selena recently admitted, her eyes glistening with the first stirrings of tears, because for so long, that relationship represented every part of me that felt unlovable and trapped. The nightmare, she clarifies, wasn't Justin himself. It was a cycle. The hope, the heartbreak, the self-doubt, and the constant pressure to be okay for everyone but herself. You start feeling like you're lying, not just to the world, but especially to the person who once knew you better than anyone. With those words, Selena opened a window many people keep shuttered. The agony of being seen yet misunderstood, and the strange isolation that grows from loving someone so deeply it eclipses your own sense of self. Selena's ability to channel pain into art is legendary, but even she admits there were moments when words simply weren't enough. There's no script for how you talk to the person who knows every version of you, especially when you no longer even recognize yourself, she confessed. The only way she could fully communicate what she was feeling was through music. "I'd play songs, heartbreak anthems, ballads, lyrics about moving on, and in those melodies, that's where the truth lived. That's when I felt alive again." Music became her sanctuary, her translator, and sometimes her only voice. There were times, she says, when she couldn't say, "I miss you" or "I love you," but she could sing, and that made all the difference. The power of music, the frequency, the notes, the truth, it's more honest than anything I could say. It's what saved me. This almost spiritual reliance on music didn't just help Selena survive. It helped her reconnect. Even when connection seemed lost forever, whether it was with family or her own fractured sense of self, the music brought her back to the room, back to reality. Selena's openness about her journey, her lupus diagnosis, struggles with anxiety and depression, and her heartbreak has been both cathartic and terrifying. There are moments when being on stage is so vulnerable, it actually feels like I'm jumping out of my own skin, she admitted. For years, she played the role of the pop star, glamorous, invincible, untouched by the ordinary messiness of real life. In reality, each performance was a high-wire act, balancing her need to connect with fans against the very real toll that emotional exposure takes. I tried once to look the part of a pop star, but when I watched the footage, it felt so awkward, so far from who I am. The costumes and makeup couldn't hide her exhaustion, especially from herself. That's not me. That's not what I want to give my fans. It was only in recent years that Selena allowed herself to pull back, to say no to award show spectacles and over-scripted performances, and to gravitate towards softer, acoustic sets. Real connection, she realized, does require fireworks. It only needs honesty. Why do artists risk so much for so little guarantee of healing? For Selena, performing is both a release and a risk. When everyone in the crowd is there for the music, I feel the power of what I created. But when you're just a spectacle, it's empty. The act of getting lost in song, she says, can border on addictive, an escape from pain, but also the nearest thing to being fully present. This paradox, that escapism can also anchor you in reality, is at the heart of Selena's growth. It's what gives her the courage to show up, not just as a performer, but as a human being, flaws and all. Perhaps the hardest truth to admit is this: you don't really move on from heartbreak. You learn to move with it. For Selena, this meant shifting her whole sense of self-worth, from being someone's other half to being whole on her own. My mission now is simple, she reflected. I went through what I went through so I could help other people with the same pain. That's all. She recalls visiting a young boy suffering from lupus in a hospital, a disease Selena herself continues to battle. He was so nervous, wouldn't look up at me. Then he asked, "Is it true you have lupus too?" And in that moment, he finally saw me, not as a pop star, not as some icon, but as someone who truly understood what he was living. It was then Selena realized that her suffering, her setbacks, and even her nightmare were leading her somewhere, toward empathy, toward purpose. We all have our own nightmares, she explained, but we also have the power to turn them into something bigger than ourselves. Behind every showbiz headline is a real person just trying to get through the day. Selena's openness about mental health, her own highs and lows, her therapy, her foundation for mental health awareness, has changed thousands of lives. I'm not cured, and I don't act like I have all the answers. Some days are harder than others, but I have a better understanding of what I need, and I try to regulate my emotions with kindness when I can. That struggle, she says, isn't unique to entertainers. It's a human struggle, magnified by a culture that often rewards perfection over honesty. Everyone's life is hard in its own way. We all have a right to our own pain. But if we talk about it, if we let people see us without the mask, maybe we can help each other out. When asked about her purpose, Selena doesn't hesitate. I know this is my purpose. To look people in the eyes and say, I get it. Maybe not exactly your story, but close enough to understand the pain. That's why I keep going. Her journey is a testament to the power of vulnerability. By transforming her public heartbreak, the nightmare, into a beacon of hope, Selena has become more than a headline. She is a mirror and a messenger for anyone who has ever felt alone in their sadness or silenced by their suffering. Selena's story isn't just about a former relationship with another superstar. It's about the universal journey of reclaiming yourself after life knocks you down. Heartbreak doesn't always come as a breakup. It might be illness, loss, or simply growing away from the person you used to be. Her candidness provides a roadmap. Acknowledge your pain, but don't let it define you. Even the worst nightmare passes. Find your own form of expression. If you can't say how you feel, sing it, write it, dance it, or create in any way that is true to you. Embrace the right to not be okay, not performing, not showing up for others. Sometimes that's necessary for healing. Seek connection and be honest. Vulnerability breeds real connection, whether with one stranger or a stadium full of fans. Let your hardships create purpose, not bitterness. Every scar could be a chance to help someone else if you're brave enough to share your story.